Hello everyone. It's funny that I've called my speech Addicted to Escaping Reality because I'm so scared and nervous right now I could literally run away. So let me start before I actually do. Okay, so my name is Steven and I'm an addict. Usually the first thing that people think about when I mention addiction is everything related to drugs, alcohol, gambling, or whatever the addiction may be. Yes, it's true that all this is a big part of addiction, but addiction is much more than that. And if drugs and alcohol were my only problem, life would be much easier and I definitely wouldn't be standing here today. So I'm here today to share my journey through addiction and recovery. Let me take you back to when it all started for me. Before drugs were even in the picture, I was a shy, scared and insecure kid when I began first school. As a kid, I already felt different to everyone and I hated this feeling. I hated it so much that I could not face going to school, knowing I was not intelligent enough, sporty enough, or enough on anything really to fit in. This is where I believe my addiction started to control me. I was unable to deal with or identify what I was feeling. I was scared to share my feelings. So this is where I already began to escape my reality, by trying to run away from school in the mornings. I did this a few times, but eventually I stopped. As I was such a scared kid, I would be terrified when I was hiding. So I came up with a different way of escaping my reality. Every time I felt scared, insecure, or any other feeling that I couldn't identify, I get a bit nervous my first time, and it's my biggest fear, so hopefully by the end of the day I've conquered it. I could not cope. I would make a circle shape with my arms. I disappeared from the world every time I did this. Eventually this method was not good enough, as people, including my teachers, would make fun of me. And when I lifted my head up, the world suddenly reappeared. I saw them all laughing and pointing at me. The problem became worse. I accepted that no one would ever understand me. That's when I turned from a fearful kid into an angry kid in order to protect myself. Every time I felt scared or insecure, I would throw a tantrum and go crazy. I would throw chairs around and I became a very violent kid. For a while, I earned some respect from people, but eventually everyone started laughing at me again. I was such an angry kid that the whole school invented a chant about me, which went a bit like this. Ea, 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 el Steven se cabrea. Ea, 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 el Steven se cabrea. Y ahí va Steven como los locos, intentando coger a alguien para pegar. So eventually I became a joke. I even tried bullying at one point, as I felt bullied by other kids and teachers. However, I am way too sensitive and compassionate to have been a bully. This was just not part of who I am. For example, the other day I went to see a film with my nephew, the new Winnie the Pooh, and I ended up crying in the cinema. So imagine how much I would cry when I got home and prayed for someone to help me. I did not want to hurt anyone. I just wanted my pain to go away. It seemed no matter how hard I tried, there was no way of escaping my reality. This was until I was introduced to drugs at the age of 13. I was always so angry that one day one of the older kids in my patio said, "Chiquillo, fumate un porro y ya quédate a gusto." So that's exactly what I did. And that's where my addiction took advantage of my inability of coping with my feelings. And my addiction to drugs commenced. As I took the first puff of a joint, I felt this warmth fill my body, and all my fears, all my insecurities, all my pain just left. I smoked so much that day that I threw up, but I did not see the consequences of smoking. I only saw that this would numb me completely. So I was instantly hooked. But like everything else I tried before, this too eventually stopped working, as I quickly grew a tolerance to it. So I had no option but to start using heavier drugs, like alcohol and pills, which eventually grew to smoking cocaine and sniffing heroin. I was always trying different drugs, and for a while they all worked. But eventually all my fears, pain, and insecurities would all come back, and it would come back even stronger. So the quantity of drugs would increase. I was always chasing the high that would completely numb me. It got so bad that in order to maintain my drug consumption, I had to steal from my parents, friends, even my youngest brother. But it got to a stage where nothing worked. Nothing would help me numb away the feeling of not belonging in this world. This led to a moment of desperation, as I was losing it all. I lost my house, I lost all my money, I was probably about to lose my family too, and worst of all, I completely lost myself. I was a living dead man. I decided to ask for help, but before I did, I took all the drugs in my house. I took so many pills in the hope that I would never wake up again and see the embarrassment in my family's faces. But somehow, I woke up completely fine, with just a big pain on my side. I saw this as a sign that I was destined for more than just getting high. So I asked for help, and what was the worst day of my life became the best day of the rest of my life. This brings me to my journey of recovery. Let me tell you now, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. It's been so hard that more than once I've thought of going back to the insanity of active addiction, as it's easier to live in a fantasy world than live in my reality. When I first started my 12-step program to recovery, I was 25. I thought that this is easy, as the first step was admitting I was powerless over my addiction and that my life had become unmanageable. I knew this since the age of 18, so it should be a piece of cake, right? Well, as I started to do the rest of the steps, I had to dig deep into my problems, my insecurities, and all the stuff I had done in active addiction. I wanted to drop dead there and then and go back to smoking crack. But I stuck to it as I wanted to change so badly. I wanted to become the person I knew I could become, and slowly it started to get easier. I had a few hiccups where I did not relapse, but I became very sad and depressed. I even thought about my own death, and that I should just finish it in order to end the pain. It got to a point in my recovery that I had to deal with something I had been ignoring for many years. This was the passing of my grandmother. Out of all the things I did, from street fights to stealing to smuggling, nothing could compare to the pain of feeling like I had let her down. Many years ago, my grandmother was diagnosed with terminal cancer at the very young age of 59. And my whole family gave her a GBC open day surprise. I chose to let my fear stop me from seeing this great woman who was always by my side and always made me feel like it was okay. It was easier to ignore my problem. It was easier to ignore the real problem. I couldn't accept that my grandmother was dying, so I pretended like everything was okay. I couldn't bring myself to visit her during her illness, and this haunted me my entire youth, years, and adulthood. She sadly passed away at the age of 60. In recovery, I was forced to deal with this issue in order to move on, but the pain was so raw, so real, that I knew no amount of drugs could take the pain away. So I wanted to die. Death takes the ultimate pain away. This is how addiction gets to us. Addiction is an incurable disease, and its goal is not to get us hooked on drugs or alcohol or whatever the addiction may be. Its goal is to kill us through it. I have been fortunate in recovery, as I have a great family who support me. I have lots of good friends who are also addicts in recovery and show me how to cope with reality. I found a sport in which I invest a lot of time and effort. This sport is running. Running makes me challenge myself and also gives me a healthy way of escaping my reality when I need a break from my mind and my addiction. I met a friend in running who gave me the freedom to share my pain with her and always listen to me without judgment. However, not all recovering addicts have the same luck as me, as they try and make the changes but come across a lot of stigma and judgment that's add to the problems. In the end, they give up on recovery. I too come across and still come across this stigma on a daily basis, and it's very hurtful and saddening when you have to hide who you are in order to not be judged and be accepted. This is why I speak up and share my journey. My aim is to try and show people that if you are hard on us, but also give us a chance when we try and make the change, we can become great, loving people who will always go out the way to help others. This is why, at the beginning of next year, I will be leaving to South Africa as a volunteer worker to help the more unfortunate people and experience a different way of living, a different culture, and to open my eyes a bit more. So remember, next time you meet an addict who is trying to make the change, pat them on the back and support them, take an interest in them, make them feel it's okay to be a recovering addict and not hide it away. We are humans just like you and did not ask for this illness. Please don't close doors on us, as we already have addiction trying to kick our ass on a daily basis. And for my fellow addicts, active or in recovery, remember there is a life after drugs, and it's a beautiful one. Trust me. I also thought there was no way I could move on without numbing my pain. I was at an all-time low, and 3 days before I hit rock bottom, I found myself sitting down in Casement's tunnel with a hood over my head, begging for money so I wouldn't lose my house. A day later, I got paid a big sum of money for an illegal job I did. And instead of using this to change my life and start fresh, I spent it all on drugs, as I could not see a way out. But with help and support, there is one. First, we must deal with our deepest pain, and we get worse before it gets better. But it gets better. And it's the best feeling in the world. Life is beautiful, people. Let's enjoy it and love each other. No matter where you come from or what you have wrongfully done in the past, let's help one another grow and improve for a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen Walker.